Hi, it's Dr. Parikh, and I'm talking now about understanding feedback from peers and your instructor. So you're getting a lot of feedback in this course. You're getting in discussion boards regularly, every week feedback on 3 different pieces of your paper. So small sections that a lot of people are able to give you feedback on, and I float around in there and occasionally will contribute some feedback to or try to clarify something when there's a discussion. You get the full feedback template, like the one that you see on the screen right now, the peer editing form, and you get that for your discussion and for the main themes of your literature review. And then you also get feedback from me on a regular basis, from the outline and on your drafts. And you get that through Blackboard, which means you get the rubric, which is very detailed. You get comments. So usually I'll try to give 3 major comments in the feedback box. That's the one that shows up like a little yellow thought bubble in your My Grades. And then I also give feedback in the viewing pane. So when you upload a Word or PDF document, I can actually put little pointers in there that go out to comment bubbles. So you're getting a lot of feedback. And the first thing I would say about feedback is read every piece carefully. Take your time with it, read it, set it aside, and go back a day or 2 later and read it again as much as possible. If you don't have a day or 2, set it aside, plan ahead, say, okay, I'm going to start with the feedback. I'm going to set it aside and work on hopefully a completely different class for a few hours, but at least a different assignment for a few hours, and then I'm going to go back to it. Because you change. Reading feedback is hard, it's emotional, and so you need that break. You need to be able to take some time off, see what you think, and come back to it. Feedback, so take your time with it, set it aside, read it from start to finish, read it again. I would say don't be afraid to ask questions, so especially for me, but also for your peers. If it's in a discussion board, if it's the feedback form, if you truly don't understand something, reach out to them, make a comment, email them back, email me, come to office hours. But there's a little asterisk at the end of that, the little star things. And the asterisk is, but read the feedback fully first, take time off, read it again. So do that first step of really consuming the feedback carefully. And then if you still don't understand it, go back to it and try to write your question in as neutral of a way as possible. And be specific. So not just, why didn't you understand my paper? Like, who can answer that? Instead say, I see that you said that parts of it were unclear, but you weren't very specific. Can you can you tell me which specific sections you got confused in? Or can you give me an example of a sentence that was confusing for you? So you can tell how that second version is a lot more detailed. It is a lot easier for the person to respond to too, because if you say, what didn't you understand? Like, even me as the instructor, I'm going to be like, I'll know to do things like copy examples of sentences that I had difficulty with, but particularly your peers may not really know what to do with that. So you want to give questions that are easy for them to answer. And if it's really tough, just come meet with me. If you can't meet in person, arrange to meet me virtually. I have a lot more flexibility with meeting times if you're willing to meet online. And if need be, sometimes I'll also just make a really short video, and I'll just make it like a private YouTube video that only you can watch. If it's something that's just way too much for me to type and there's no way for you to come to office hours. Because as an online student, you can't just, come to class a few minutes early to ask me a question. So worst case scenario, I might do that. But really, if I think that I've already answered that and you just didn't look for the information, I might tell you, check the comments in the viewing pane. But really, I'm going to expect you to do as much as you can to take that feedback that I've already given you as far as it can go. So this goes through yes or no questions. You'll have filled it out for someone else, so it should be pretty self-explanatory. You want to use things like when it asks, what is the main point? That's a good way for you to see what are people understanding. Because your peer is someone who's trying to understand your paper. They're working reasonably hard. And so you can get a sense of what what they're getting, because the average reader is not going to be trying quite as hard as your peer reviewer is. So take your time with it, read it thoroughly, set it aside, read it thoroughly again, then reach out for clarification. And again, I'm always a good source. Even if it's feedback from a peer, you can still come to me and ask about it. Again, it's emotional. Do your best to set aside those emotions, and time helps, time and distraction. So like I said, ideally a day or two, but worst case scenario, work on a different topic for an hour or two and come back to it. All right, thanks.